Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a very powerful climbing team for the Open Master League, featuring a Pokemon that has again risen to meta relevance, Legacy HEATRAN. HEATRAN is a Fire Steel type Pokemon with the moveset of Fire Spin, coverage move of Stone Edge, and its legacy move of Magma Storm. HEATRAN really likes feasting on all of the new Duskmane, and it has Stone Edge to potentially one-shot a lot of the Ho-Ohs that people are bringing to try and beat Duskmane. I paired it up with a Palkia lead and a Dawnwing safe switch, and had great sets including the 7-3 run that I'm going to showcase here. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Decent lead in the first match, Palkia vs Zygarde. I'll always play the zeros here and go straight Spatial Rend. Typically, once they throw their energy, I'm just going to aggressively switch into the Dawnwings. Unfortunately, the game stutters and forces me to throw the Spatial Rend on alignment, giving up an entire free Dragon Tail. That's a really rough start to a match, but I'm never shielding Palkia here. Crunch will KO, they did enough Dragon Tail damage to do so, and now I can send in Dawnwings. Dawnwings up a shield does great against Zygarde. Zygarde is going to fire off the Crunch, but I have shields to protect myself from the double super effective damage. Now it's my opponent's turn to throw an alignment, and they are going to give me an entire free Shadow Claw, which is quite nice, as Dawnwings up energy is incredibly deadly. They do unfortunately get the defense drop from the Crunch, which means I will have to switch out of here pretty soon, but I have a Dark Pulse loaded. They send out Duskmane, and I'm going for the bait. I built up to the Moongeist though to hopefully force the shield. The Dark Pulse bait gets no shielded, in comes HEATRAN in the back. I was expecting Solgaleo, but that works as well. With the Zygarde out of the way, a lot of Zygarde lead teams get completely core broken by HEATRAN in the back, whether it's something like Duskmane Ho-Oh, Duskmane Solgaleo, or in this case, Duskmane and Avalugg. I'm able to successfully grab the shield with a bait. Opponent is going to be able to connect with another Rock Slide, but it's not going to be enough to KO. HEATRAN does have some pretty nice bulk here. I'm going to overfarm by 2 Fire Spins. I throw an alignment, but this play is actually going to win me the game, because now I have enough residual energy that I can make it to the Magma Storm versus Duskmane. So a Zygarde lead, unfortunately throwing on alignment in the beginning of the match, the game will still end in a victory. Tough lead in the next match, Palkia Origin versus Dialga Origin. I need to immediately switch out of here into the safe switch of Dawnwings. Dawnwings is just incredibly consistent as a safe switch, as its energy is good into basically everything that is good in the meta. I am going to shield up the Iron Head, as Dawnwings isn't the bulkiest thing around. I'm well past the Moongeist, so I will bait with the Dark Pulse. The Dark Pulse bait does get the shield from the opponent. That is terrific. I make it to the Moongeist beam. This is very close to Aqua Tail range. Can my Dawnwings hold on? The answer is yes. Holding on with a couple HP remaining, making it to the Moongeist Beam. Moongeist Beam nearly picks up the one-hit KO, but Palkia tanks it on 1 HP. Our switch timers are misaligned, and I can use that to my advantage. I'm expecting it's going to be Landorus in the back, and if that's the case, then energy on my HEATRAN will be very valuable. So I'm actually not going to throw my energy here. They can make a Roar of Time, but if it's Landorus, after they roar and switch, I can make 2 Magma Storms. Oh, but that's not Landorus. It's actually going to be their own Dawnwings. I have double Magma Storm here. I think I can make it to the Stone Edge, however, but I miscalculate, and I think I've just thrown the game. Oh no, this is really not good. I'm going to farm up with the Palkia, play to the CMP tie, because Palkia does win it, and now it all comes down to this. I have to get the shield call right. I shield. Is it the Moongeist Beam? Yes, it is. I get the shield call right, and that is going to win me the game. I would have been in a significantly better position if I just went for the double Magma Storm, but I got greedy and tried to go for the Stone Edge. But getting the shield call right on the Moongeist Beam means that Palkia is able to knock out Dialga and take the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Palkia versus Zygarde. And again, I'm more than happy to stay in this matchup. Opponent goes for the Crunch instantly. I'm never shielding here. I'm just going to throw 2 Dragon Breaths, go for the Spatial Rend. Unfortunately, they get the defense drop, which is really unfortunate. Zygardes were getting a lot of defense drops on me today, and now I can aggressively pivot into Dawnwings. Basically, every Zygarde team is weak to Dawnwings, up a shield, and up energy. Even if they have Duskmane in the back, they can't really afford to switch it in because they're down a shield and down energy. And they get another Crunch debuff. You have got to be kidding me. It's only a 30% chance, but it kept happening for my opponents. Moongeist picks up the KO. There's the Duskmane, but Duskmane, again, not a big fan of being down energy here. I'm going straight for the Moongeist. Opponent lets it go. Goodbye, Duskmane. But that's bad news. It's Palkia in the back. If they had shielded, I would have been in a strictly winning position, but now I have to deal with Palkia. Palkia is a difficult matchup for HEATRAN. as of course HEATRAN does not have any fast move pressure here. The fire spins are double resisted. I'm farming up and I'm firing off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will deal some pretty nice damage. The goal is I just need to try and get this into a range where I can Dragon Breath down. Opponent throws on alignment, giving me an entire fire spin for free. Can I make it to the Stone Edge? I barely can. This would have been easier had I baited on the first one. I'm going to fire off the Stone Edge, the switch to the Palkia. This is just the Aqua Tail. This is going to be extremely close. Aqua Tail connects. They live on 1 HP. The difference in the game was the crunch debuff to start and the little bit of extra damage that I took from that Dragon Tail. So a very close loss. Unfortunately, one where if I didn't get the crunch debuff at the start of the game and took that little bit of extra damage, we could have simultaneously KO'd there and I would have won. The next match brings us a Core Breaker lead, Snarl Zacian. I switch into the Dawn Wings, but as you see, Snarl just absolutely shreds through Dawn Wings. They go for the Play Rough. Since I baited, I can make it to a Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse doesn't KO here, but it does a decent amount of damage. The Dark Pulse actually gets shielded, the opponent really valuing health on the Zacian, or maybe a miscount there. And now I'm going to send out HEATRAN. Another thing that makes HEATRAN good in the current meta is the fact that Zacians are not running close combat anymore. Basically, the correct meta moveset is Play Rough and Wild Charge, because that way you are at your most flexible. Play Rough and Wild Charge is an extremely difficult offensive combo to wall. Opponent sends in Palkia hoping for the snipe, but I'm able to hold on to my energy and switch. I send in Palkia, and it's Xerneas in the back. Xerneas, definitely not what I was hoping to see here. They're running ABA Fairy. Unfortunately, Xerneas is going to be bulkier than something like Zacian, which means 2 Aqua Tails plus Dragon Breaths aren't quite enough to knock out. They go for the Moonblast. Thankfully, they do not get the debuff. The debuff is a very low likelihood of occurring. I do see a win con in this match. If I can land this Aqua Tail to get them low, and then save a Spatial Rend, and then snipe with energy from HEATRAN, I can win this game. So I will commit the shield, I'm going to bank energy, and get the snipe with the HEATRAN. I'm going to be able to pick up the knockout with the Magma Storm. They lose quite a bit of energy. In comes Palkia. I can't make the Stone Edge, but it does not matter because I have the Spatial Rend. I can fire off the Spatial Rend, pick up the one-hit KO, and take the game. We've got the dream lead in the next match, Palkia versus Kyogre. This matchup right here is why Kyogre's stocks have fallen off in a massive way. Opponent safe switches into Zygarde. Zygarde safe switch is very tricky for this team to deal with. I build up to the Spatial Rend. Every Zygarde was shielding, so I go for the bait, and I get the bait. That's absolutely massive. I'm never going to be shielding here, hoping they don't have Outrage. It's just a crunch, and now I can aggressively switch into the Dawn Wings. Again, this timing as to when you switch Dawn Wings into Zygarde is very delicate. You have to grab a shield and force their energy, and there's another crunch debuff. See, I was not lying, man. Every crunch was debuffing me, it felt like. It was absolutely absurd. I go for the Moongeist. They will commit the shield. I'm more than happy to shield back, because I know that I'm going to be able to massively overfarm if they stay in, and if they don't stay in and send out Kyogre, then I can absolutely crush it with a Moongeist Beam. There, I'm not quite sure what happened. They should have got a third Waterfall through, but realistically, it's not going to matter because I can switch into Palkia and snipe before they can make a potential Thunder. In the back, it's going to be a Charm Primarina, and this game is over. Charm on Primarina is very deadly into Palkia, but I basically had 1 HP on Palkia, and now I can just send in HEATRAN with the double Charm Resist. I'm going to overfarm by 1 just to ensure that I'm going to have better pacing in this endgame matchup. Stone Edge is going to knock out the Primarina. In comes Zygarde. I can make double Magma Storm before they can get to an Earthquake. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got a mirror, Palkia versus Palkia. I do have Best Buddy equipped, which means I will win the mirror. So I can go for Spatial Rend instantly. I didn't see text pop up saying they got a catch, so they just stayed in and cap tied, and they're just going to let that go. What are they going to be sending in here? They're going to send in Landorus, and this is quite interesting. So this tells me that they probably have Ho-Oh in the back. That's a very common team, Palkia, Landorus, Ho-Oh, or they could have Duskmane or Solgaleo. Either way, I should be in a pretty good spot as long as I just keep switch advantage here. So I am going to force the shield with the Aqua Tail. Here my opponent could have thrown energy but doesn't. They allow me to get to an Aqua Tail, so I'm able to force both shields. They're going to exit with a ton of energy, but they've lost so much HP. And I can just use Dawn Wings as a gigantic damage sponge because, of course, HEATRAN wants nothing to do with Landorus. They're going to be able to debuff me. That's very okay with me. They're firing off more energy. Now going for the Stone Edge. That does quite a lot of damage. In the back, it's going to be Duskmane, and it's all over for the opponent. Opponent is going to concede the match. We see a decent lead in the next match, Palkia versus Duskmane. Now this is a winning matchup for Palkia in evens with one very important caveat. If they're running Outrage, then this is not a winning matchup for Palkia. Most that I saw were not running Outrage, so I'm not going to respect it. So I'm going to let this through, and guess what? It's Outrage, I get KO'd, I send in Heatran, opponent makes it extremely confusing switch as they switch a Dialga into Heatran. But the fact that they were switching out here makes me think that this is just going to be double Dragon in the back with Palkia, and unfortunately, Dawn Wings can do some incredible things, but Dawn Wings straight up loses the 2s to Palkia, just due to the fact that Palkia has an ever so slight pacing advantage. I can't quite get the farm down before they make the Roar of Time. That does a ton of damage. And if it's Palkia in the back, there's just no winning this game because with Dark Pulse, it's 14 turns to the first and then 12 to the rest, whereas Palkia is consistent 12 turns to Aqua Tail. So even though they don't throw on good timing there, they're still able to win the 2s just going straight Aqua Tail. My opponent knows exactly that. I can fire off the Dark Pulse, but realistically at this point, there is no winning this game. I am going to be able to grab the shield, but it does not matter. These just do so much damage. This is a range where Aqua Tail will actually KO. I'm going to commit the shield, but they know they can just switch into their Duskmane, and unfortunately, I will resign the match. The game could have gone a lot differently if they didn't have Outrage, but having Outrage on the lead was very, very bad for me. This is a pretty good lead for me, though. Palkia versus the Dawn Wings. With Palkia, I will always be farming up and baiting with the Aqua Tail. Whether they shield it or not, I think going straight Aqua Tail is always the correct play, because Palkia wins the 1 straight Aqua Tail. If they shield a Spatial Rend, you can actually lose the 1s to Dawn Wings. So I'm going to farm up, go for the Aqua Tail, and this Aqua Tail does actually knock out. It's very close, but it does knock out there, which is quite nice. So I'm able to win the 1s, and I'm still very, very healthy as well. They're going to send in Xerneas. I'm immediately switching out. Even though I do have a pretty good check to this in Heatran, I am not going to stay in and just let my Palkia get thrown away. I'm going to aggressively pivot. I get my attack debuffed by a Moonblast, and in comes Kyogre. So baiting out this Kyogre just means game over. I am just in a completely one position. I get very close to that Moongeist Beam, but unfortunately can't quite get there. So I'm just going to settle for the double Dark Pulse. I can bring in the Palkia, and Palkia, again, just absolutely destroys Kyogre. And in comes the Xerneas, and yeah, this game is absolutely over. I can keep firing off these Aqua Tails. They're going to no-shield the first, but I can get to another one. And this will be forcing the final shield, and I can just send in Heatran to completely absorb their energy. So I'm going to keep farming with the Palkia. I want to go for a little bit of bad manners. I try for the Moonblast catch. Unfortunately, I am unsuccessful. But the good news for me is that it's not going to matter, because Heatran can tank the close combat and actually win charge attack priority over the Xerneas. I believe, and someone can double check me in the comments, I believe Best Buddy Xerneas can actually win that CMP tie over the Heatran, but since they're not Best Buddy, I'm able to win CMP. We've got a mirror lead in the next match, and both of us have Best Buddy equipped, so this will be a 50-50 coin flip as to who wins charge attack priority, and it turns out it's me. This is awesome. I will fire off the Spatial Rend. They're going to no-shield. I think that baiting in the Palkia mirror is just a strict mistake, because more often than not, if you win CMP, your opponent's just going to let it go. They send out Dawn Wings. I make the Spatial Rend with fractional HP remaining, and I'm going to send out my own Dawn Wings. I'm just going to go for a double shield farm down play here. My opponent is going to be able to make 2 Dark Pulses, but energy on Dawn Wings is just so incredibly valuable. They are going to be able to barely survive the Shadow Claw, so they will have the 1 HP Dawn Wings available in the back, but it's Landorus in the back, and this is really not good. I know I can easily take a Sandsear. A Stone Edge could potentially be problematic. I'm able to successfully grab the shield with the bait. It all comes down to this. Can I live the Stone Edge and 2 more Mud Shots? I cannot. And that is game losing for me. Dark Pulse will not KO. I can send in the Heatran. I can get close to KOing, but they survive. Fractional HP, and Sandsear Storm 1-hit KOs Heatran, and by the narrowest of margins, unfortunately, that game will end in a loss. Hopping into the final match, amazing lead. Our entire team does well into Ho-Oh. Opponent save switches into Mewtwo. Had I been a little bit faster, I could have sent in the Dawn Wings, but Mewtwo has an ability to double shield and win switch there, and I really didn't want to have to go down that route. There, I tried to throw on good timing, but the game was very stuttery today, so unfortunately, it did end up being on CMP, but the nice thing here is they can't make the Shadow Ball, so I get a farm down, I take almost no damage to do so, and now I can send in Dawn Wings. One area for concern is that our switch clocks are very misaligned. So, after getting the Moongeist Beam shielded, I'm going to do something I don't normally do in a mid game, and that is I'm actually going to shield. This is purely just to burn switch clock, because I want our switch clocks to be back in alignment, because of course Palkia will absolutely shut down Ho-Oh, and I'm expecting they should have a very nice check to Palkia in the back. At this point, Dawn Wings has done what it needs to, got the Ho-Oh very low. I can just send in Heatran. It's Dialga in the back. There's no hope for the opponent, and they will resign the match. All in all, I think that this team, and Heatran especially, have a very nice place in this new adjusted Master League meta now that the Necrozma forms have arrived. With Duskmane being as popular as it is, having a Pokemon that can shut down its Sunsteel Strike and make it go for Dark Pulses while hitting for super effective damage in return is very valuable. Add to that the Stone Edge that can potentially get one-hit KOs onto stuff like Ho-Oh, and as well, being a complete wall to energy from Dialga. I do think that Heatran does have a very nice place in this current meta. I do think that this team overall is a very strong archetype, and you can switch out quite a few different leads and closers for this team. For example, if you don't have Heatran, you could use Solgaleo as the third. If you don't have Palkia, you could even run something like Kyurem on the lead. So I do think that Dawn Wings is pretty unique in its ability to just be a hyper flexible safe switch, that its energy is very difficult to wall, but I think that there's honestly a lot of different things that you can kind of plug into the lead and closer spots, and you can have some very nice success, because overall, an archetype like this, as long as you understand the dynamics of when to switch in Dawn Wings, is just very, very powerful overall. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.